I think NMI provides people to get right into a career path. It hastens the career path to get them to work right away. NMI's program is just really about taking people and harnessing their energy into a successful career path. People come from all walks of life that attend NMI. It's a very diverse school, but it's a school that's not easy. The school really is a robust school that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of consideration from people who want to be good and decent people. When you go to sea, you really are living in a very small, tight-knit community, and you have to really take care of one another. So what we tried to do is embrace that opportunity and make sure that mariners from NMI, when they went into their career path and when they went to work for large companies, especially here in the United States, that our mariners were seen to be really excellent practitioners. And so far, we're into this will be the end of year 6. We go into year 7 in the fall. For the college program, we've been a professional maritime training school since 1981 and transitioned to a maritime college 6 years ago. And it really has been fun to watch the reputation of our graduates just evolve into mariners that people really want to hire. It is a neat thing to see not only our students, but the people that work at NMI develop relations with our students, with the industry, and really make sure we're listening to what industry needs and what our graduates need to be successful mariners and seafarers. So from what I understand, the attendees tonight, tonight meaning tonight from the East Coast of the United States, we have people from all over the world attending. And what we want to show you is a really great model that has been successful in a way that is that we might not have seen in the past. I will tell you a little bit about my career. My career started off as a Coast Guard reservist at the age of 16. I went into the Coast Guard Reserve. I went to boot camp and turned 17 there. And basically, from there, went off to college. From college, I went into the Merchant Marine as an ordinary seaman. Started at the bottom of the barrel. And what I realized quickly is that it was a really amazing industry. I got to sail as an ordinary seaman on LNG tankers and just fell in love with it. When I say fell in love with it, I mean I fell in love with it. I loved being at sea on such a large vessel. I got to see all kinds of just amazing things in nature, and I couldn't believe that I was actually getting paid to go do this work. I got to wake up and be in the fresh air every day, and I got to steer this ship that was 3 football, 4 football fields long. It was just an amazing career path for me. So from there, I went on and went from ordinary seaman to able-bodied seaman to bosun and then to third mate. And then I was hired in the company as a designated person for the company to facilitate and manage the ISM code, and soon thereafter became vice president of new business development. Did that for 2 years before I had the opportunity to take over Northeast Maritime and create this amazing training school and evolve it. And it just has become a real great school because of the great people that work there. We couldn't ask for a better faculty and a better staff. And the reason is we really care about our students. The neat part is we all are passionate about what is happening at sea. So what we want to do is we want to tell you a little bit about our program, our Nautical Science program, but we also want to remind people that while we are a college, we also offer education and training programs for what they call hawse pipers. Hawse pipers are people that don't necessarily take the career path of going through the college program. They will go to work, they will go to school, they will go to work, they will go to school, and then go ahead and upgrade their licenses in that format. That's kind of like the old-fashioned apprenticeship programs that they had 50 years ago. And it was a successful path, and we still run those programs very successfully at the Institute and have a great reputation. As a matter of fact, the Institute's reputation was based on that hawse piper program. So what we want to do is remind people that you have the options of going to college and you have the options of going to work. It's much easier if you go to college. It cuts the time frame that you have to spend to get to the level of licensure by 2/3. And it's a well formatted and well regulated program approved by the United States Coast Guard, as well as the Commonwealth of Dominica, both whitelisted nations on the IMO's list of countries giving complete and full effect to the code. And then you know, what we have is just opportunities en masse, as well as the world's most comprehensive online learning management system for maritime education and training. So what we want to do is allow people to look at our website and go from there. And with that, we are going to go ahead and introduce Captain Aaron Paolino. He is the Director of Nautical Science at Northeast Maritime Institute, who has had just an amazing career, passionate. The kids love him because of his career path. And I'll tell you, it is exciting that we are lucky enough to have Captain Paolino with us at the Institute, heading up our program, because he brings just a world of knowledge, but he brings that passion and he brings that care, and not only care, but compassion to their students and their needs. And I will argue that my whole faculty are the same. They just really make sure that that people attending our college get the support that they need to be successful. So Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you and really appreciate you delivering this tonight, and look forward to answering anybody's questions when Captain Paolino is done.
All right, thank you, Eric. Good evening, everyone. I am Captain Aaron Palino. I have been a professional mariner for just about 20 years now, and have worked on tugboats and educational vessels everywhere from the Caribbean to Alaska. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it means to be a mariner and why this is a program that really should interest young people today as far as future careers and opportunities. All right, what is a mariner and why should I want to be one? Well, there has to be a need for anyone to want to go into any career. And is there a need for mariners? Well, all over the world, over 80% of goods are traveling by water at some point in time. I know most people are used to seeing goods come in off of a truck, or thinking of things coming by plane, being delivered by the mailman at their house, or they just walk into the store and buy them, but somehow those goods got there. And most things that we buy as consumers are being made in another country today, and they're being transported somewhere in the world to where you are. And part of that transportation usually involves being on board a ship. All right, so as I was saying, goods are traveling by ship to get to wherever we are from wherever they were made. And mariners are needed at all stages in this. When we have container ships, which many of you have seen, giant boxes on board, it seems kind of remote. Where do those jobs fit into things? Well, those ships are coming from everywhere in the world to everywhere in the world, and they get to ports. And then they need to be assisted by tugs. They need to be assisted by pilots, being brought to them out on pilot boats. So at all stages in this transportation, mariners are needed in the countries where the ships are coming from and going to, plus in the middle where the ships are underway. Oil tankers, the same idea. They need to be manned by merchant mariners. They need to be assisted by merchant mariners as they are coming into the ports. Cruise ships, ferries, taking people all through island communities all over the world, and all these support vessels, the tugboats, the supply vessels, the pilot boats, are all needed everywhere for our maritime infrastructure to work. And this is our global seafaring community, because all over the world, this cargo is shipped on vessels built and maintained by independent nations working together. And many of these vessels have crews from all over the world. Now, these vessels need to be able to work together, even though they're coming from different nations and going to different nations. All of them need some kind of comprehensive language that they can speak with each other, some set of rules and regulations. That way a ship going from one country to another doesn't need to learn an entirely new system. And so global standards are developed by the International Maritime Organization, which is a body of the United Nations, and our mariners are trained under the International Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping. STCW is the basis of our training here in the United States and the basis of training in countries abroad. And so in the United States, the US Coast Guard is applying these regulations to the US Merchant Marine. That doesn't mean that everyone on board a vessel is part of the Coast Guard. It just means that they are the overseeing body for our domestic licenses. And so what is the Merchant Marine? It does sound somewhat confusing in name. It is basically everyone in command of a commercial US flagged vessel, and for most of those vessels, all of the crew on board. For some very small vessels, not all of the crew members are required to be certified as merchant mariners, as able seamen or ordinary seamen. But on most vessels that you see operating, all of the oil tankers, container ships, cruise ships, the large ferries, tugboats, everyone on board is part of the Merchant Marine, and these individuals make up the Merchant Marine. So where does Northeast Maritime Institute fit into this? Well, to start from the ground up and move into a career in the Merchant Marine, you can either spend years and years at sea before you're able to get a foot in the door, or you can start with an educating program. And here we have an associate's degree in applied science, in nautical science, and this program provides a fast track to a career in the maritime industry. Upon completion of this program, graduates are credentialed as able seamen and as mates. Internationally, this is known as an officer in charge of a navigational watch, an OICNW, and this is for vessels domestically registered up to 200 gross tons, which internationally equates to 500 gross tons, just due to some disparities in the way that the United States and many other countries measure the tonnage of their vessels. But these are the same certification, same license. And what can you do with these licenses? What exactly does that even mean, a 200-ton or 500-ton vessel? Well, the 200-ton mates program, the mate is a junior officer on board, the officer in charge of a navigational watch. They will see to the safe navigation of the vessel and stand rotating watches. A watch on board a ship is very often a 4-hour period of time. You work 4 hours, you have 8 hours off, you work 4 hours again. On some vessels, this may be a longer period of time, 6 or even up to 12 hours, depending on the watch rotation that they stand. But a watch is basically a period of time where you are in charge of providing the operation of the vessel, whether it's navigation as the mate, or if you're the person handling lines as the deckhand or ordinary seaman. When you're on watch, it is your turn to run the vessel. If motivated and capable, the master will often train the mates in the finer operations of the vessel, preparing them to be master someday. This may take a very long time in the case of large unlimited tonnage vessels. And with some small family-owned companies, you may move from a mate to master within a couple years in an organization. And 200-ton vessels in the United States Merchant Marine generally fit into what are commonly referred to as workboats. Now, what is a workboat? This is where I've spent a large portion of my own career. These vessels exist in a variety of niches, from everywhere from inland waterways to offshore transportation. Tugs are employed in assisting ships, towing and pushing barges, rescue and salvage, firefighting, and infrastructure support. So on tugboats, I have done ship assist in places like Portland, Maine, and Valdez, Alaska. I've towed barges from Florida down to the Caribbean to supply Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I've done offshore support for oil rigs being constructed. I've towed barges between Seattle, Washington State, and Alaska. There's a lot of movement of cargo and equipment throughout all of these places. And a lot of that is done on these runs by smaller vessels towing or pushing barges. Another side of the workboat industry is offshore supply vessels. These are the tractor trailers of the waterborne world. When they're building an oil rig or they have an oil rig that is functioning out in the Gulf of Mexico, there are hundreds of people on board and they need everything. They need food, they need all of their mechanical supplies, machinery, they need drilling mud to put into the wells as they're drilling for oil. Everything has to get out there somehow. And so the offshore supply vessels do that for them. They load up at the dock, bring everything out, including crew in many occasions, to the vessels, and then they bring back crew that are getting off watch off of their hitch on board the vessel or on board the drill ship. Here are a variety of ocean-going escort tugboats, some of the biggest that have been built in the world. These are 150-foot, 10,000 horsepower vessels that are able to stop an oil tanker going 10 knots in about 3 or 4 minutes, which is much faster than they could stop themselves. They're also used in assisting ships up to the dock. Here are some older style vessels pushing an oil tanker into the dock in Valdez, Alaska, and a smaller support vessel off to the side, which is handling lines for the ship and will also bring supplies between the ships and the tugs from one side of the port to the other. Also existing in this 200 or 500 ton range is passenger vessels. Now, we often think of things like cruise ships as a passenger vessel. We see thousands of people getting on board and off in different ports, but also this includes ferries traveling all over the world, in the United States, between remote towns in Alaska, on the coast of Maine, in Washington State, in the Great Lakes. Ferries are moving people all over the place. Even in Massachusetts, in Fairhaven, where Northeast Maritime is, there are ferry docks just down the road that are bringing people out to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and all the islands in between. And so many of these ferries, excursion vessels, and small cruise ships fit into this size of less than 200 gross registered tons. And these can be ships that are carrying hundreds of people on board them, ferries that are carrying cars, and they provide a huge infrastructure backbone to a lot of our coastal communities. And in many ports, passenger excursions support booming tourist industries. You're looking at all of your charter vessels that are doing fishing charters, sailing charters, people going out to see the sunset down in Florida. All of these vessels are passenger vessels of some kind that are running with a licensed captain and often licensed crew. And adjacently attached to that are even educational vessels that are taking students out to sea in different places, offshore through the Caribbean to Cuba, all over the world. These are all vessels that need to be manned by credentialed mariners. Now, in addition to the 200 mate license, you also would be going through a program that gives you an able seaman. And able seaman is an experienced member of the deck department. On board vessels, you have what would be considered the ordinary seaman, which is where you start when you come in and you are physically able to work on board a vessel, but you haven't really learned very much yet. And then as you get more experience and you go through more courses, you become an able seaman. And here you can work on board a wide variety of vessels. You can even sail aboard unlimited tonnage vessels such as oil tankers. We have currently an NMI graduate as an AB on a 1 million barrel oil tanker. And we've had several of our students do their cooperative semester at sea on board oil tankers and vessels of this like in the last few years. And so how does NMI prepare you for this career? Well, obviously we need to have some coursework. This is a academic college program. So there's coursework in seamanship and navigation, a lot of information that you need to learn in order to be able to safely operate a vessel out at sea. We have training in safety and watch standing procedures. These are the things that are going to allow you to be an effective member of the crew. We have full licensing support while you're here. We will help you make sure all the boxes are filled, everything's checked off. That way, you know that you're getting everything done in a manner that you won't have any hangups with your license. And even when you graduate, we're always happy to help people that have come through the program to further their license and point them in the right direction for additional courses and things that they will need. And hands-on experience. Well, at NMI, we try to provide as much hands-on experience on our vessels as we can to prepare you for your jobs in the industry. Now, this can be something as simple as doing maintenance. Here we have one of our recent graduates working on the propellers of the Navigator, which is a supply vessel that we have converted to a school vessel here at NMI. In all aspects of vessel maintenance, we involve the students. In one of our courses, we go through stability and the basics of naval architecture. Now, while we aren't teaching students to be naval architects full scale and build boats for a living, what they are learning is how the plans of vessels work in order to figure out how repairs need to be done, how to evaluate how vessels are put together, and using the tools that they will need to make simple repairs and maintain the vessels that they are employed upon during their careers. And we do practical navigation experience. We have students running the vessels whenever we're out underway, navigating on voyages from a couple hours to a couple days long with the vessels here at NMI, learning all aspects of navigation from plotting a position on a chart to figuring out how to measure the angle between the sun and the horizon. And we put that all to work in our classrooms as well, making sure that everyone gets the practice they need to be fully prepared when they go out to sea aboard vessels. We also have the practical experience of all this safety training and making sure that you do actually know how things work. We don't just tell you you're going to need to put a life jacket on and jump into the ocean off your ship to abandon ship. You will be shown how to do that and actually practice doing that, jumping into a pool. We don't just talk about how you need to understand what your firefighting gear is on the vessel. You will go to fire school and actually learn how to put on your turnout gear, use your SCBA, and fight fires on board ship. That way, when the emergency comes up, you're able to effectively respond and keep your vessel and crew alive and well. Now, when you're here, we can't get everything to you that you possibly could learn in the school. So part of your training is having a sea semester cooperative experience. During this, you will actually go out into the industry and work on board vessels. Like many jobs, a merchant mariner's credential requires world experience. You have to get out there and get your hands dirty, be on board a vessel, learn how different vessels are working. So each summer, NMI students embark on a co-op experience with industry vessels to earn both sea service and practical experience. We've had students signed aboard tugs, oil tankers, ferries, cargo vessels, cruise ships, sailing ships, educational vessels, research vessels, all over the place. And we've had them everywhere from doing cruises up the Mississippi River on board of a small cruise ship, on tugboats down in the US East and West Coast, and through taking supplies to remote villages in coastal Alaska. There's really so many places and so many things you can do. And we try to get as much of that to you while you're here as possible so that you can see parts of the industry and get a better feel for where you would want to end up. All right, this is supposed to be a video. But this was a stop motion video put together by one of our graduates sailing into the Port of Valdez in Prince William Sound, Alaska, aboard a 1 million barrel oil tanker maybe 4 years ago. Now, what if you want to be on that oil tanker, not as the able seaman? You want to actually have a career where you're furthered into one of these mate officer positions. Well, that is coming right along. We currently have under final review with the National Maritime Center a third mate upgrade program. And this is specifically geared for graduates of our applied nautical science program. If you were to do this upgrade program, you would have to take 8 additional online blended courses with an estimated 3 days of assessments on site and an additional 90 days of sea service. So this would be another 90-day cooperative sea service experience, except you would already have your AB and you would be working during this time. So you would sign on board a vessel working as an AB. And during those 90 days, either during your off time at home or during your off watches, if you happen to be lucky enough to be on a vessel with some kind of connectivity, you can take these courses online, get through them, and then come in for a few assessments for several days at the end of this time. And this would then allow you to be an officer in charge of a navigational watch, a third mate on board vessels of any tonnage sailing anywhere in the world. And this is Northeast Maritime Institute and how our associate's degree program will prepare you to be a mariner.
So I think, Aaron, at this point, you can start taking questions. And Tracy, if you come back on, we can start to facilitate the Q&A. That was a great presentation, Captain Paolino. And again, for you international folks, some of the language we use and references in the United States are a little bit different. But bear with us. We are so held by tradition with our U.S. seafaring. And it was fun to listen to that and actually try and disseminate some of the reference points. But man, great presentation. And now it's time for questions. If folks could type in their questions in the chat, we'll be happy to answer them. You can even ask questions to Captain Perron, Rachel Perron, who's had a great career at sea as well as a female in both the Merchant Marine and the Navy, U.S. Navy. And you've got myself on board, and you know, we're more than happy to answer questions if people want to go ahead and type in their questions.
Eric?
So everybody can hear it. Yes, Tracy?
Eric, there's actually a great question that somebody posted in the chat to everybody. You could probably see it. It's pretty long. I was wondering if the maritime industry is seeing a large enough intake of younger workers who are learning the critical skills that their more mature, experienced colleagues have built up over time. And then they provide the context. So that'd be a great.
Right. I'm scrolling and I don't see that in the chat.
So I can see the question in the chat here. Said if the industry is seeing a large enough intake of younger workers. And right now, the U.S. Merchant Marine is actually aging, and not as many young people are coming into the industry as were previously. Part of that is due to the invisibility of it. We order things on Amazon and we don't think of where they come from. We no longer have the same send-offs with ships coming into ports, and a lot of the visibility of the Merchant Marine has gone down. So the goal is to get young people trained in the industry and get them excited about going to sea again so that we can move forward while we do still have the experienced older mariners on the vessels in order to bring people up through the ranks and train them.
And again, the reason for the development of this program as a 2-year program versus the traditional 4-year program is that it would get people who are anxious to get to work and stay working in the maritime industry for quite a while. And this program was designed to efficiently enhance one's capacity to get to work relatively quickly, Again, it is in lieu of sea time, this program. It cuts the requirement by 2/3. And, really it is a great way to get younger people who might not want to spend a lot of money on their education, as well as get right to work. And the nice part about our cooperative education semesters at sea is they are paid positions, and that is just it's very, very rare, and it's something that I'm really proud of the NMI team for putting together and facilitating with companies all over the United States, and what we'll be developing all around the world. So we're really more than excited about that.
Rachel, would you want to unclick? And there was a great question about what has been the most defining moment in your career to date, and what have you achieved that you are most proud of? And
There's Rachel.
Absolutely, here I am. That is an excellent question. And I can think of many great moments in my career that I am proud of. To be frankly honest with everyone here, my most defining moment and the thing that I'm most proud of is teaching the next generation. I know that might sound a little cliche, but my involvement here at NMI and the ability to work with the students daily and share that passion that I've had for the maritime industry with them has really, I'm even almost like coming to tears just talking about it. But that's what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of my students when they leave here with that captain's license and they go right into the industry and they do so well. And when they text me back or Facebook me back with pictures of what they've been doing and the adventures they've been having, honestly, that's what I'm most proud of. Now, I know that that wasn't what your question was asking. So to actually answer your question with regards to the maritime industry, it's hard to pin it down to any one particular instance. And I could say that a few of my most favorite points are, I've been on board several large vessels, but I have had a varied and wide experience throughout the whole industry. But I think that and I was talking to my students this morning that, just thinking back to those days where I came up on my 8 to 12 watch, and I was on the bridge and I was managing the radio and plotting on the chart and watching the sun come up and making sure there was coffee ready for the crew as they wandered in. And just having that freedom and that responsibility all in one, I think has always been a defining moment for me. But I'm actually most proud of being able to move throughout the industry and experience different parts of the world from different aspects on different types of vessels. And I think that's one of the gems of being a merchant mariner or working in the merchant industry is that ability. In other careers and other industries, if you are seen from moving from one company to another too quickly, you start very quickly being dubbed as a job hopper or somebody that is not necessarily going to show a commitment to your particular company. But in the merchant marine, that is actually seen as a good thing. As you're working through the different types of vessels in the different aspects of the industry. So I hope that answers your question. And if you would like me to elaborate or have anything you want me to go further down on, then just please chat me back in the chat.
Aaron, one question actually that came up from a student who wasn't able to join in the presentation due to time. But one question he wanted to know was how can he better prepare as a high school student to do a program like this? Does he need to have experience sailing or like prior boat work? He was a little worried that he wouldn't be able to do this type of program because he doesn't have a lot of experience at sea right now in high school, but he really has a passion for wanting to jump into this type of career?
Well, there is no absolutely necessary prerequisite experience. You could come here never having been on the water before and being willing to work and pay attention and be in pretty good stead. We're not looking to take people that are been sailing and being mariners their entire lives and give them that little extra boost. We're looking to take people that really want this type of a career that don't know how to get into it. That's the biggest point of the program. Many people that have the experience have seen other ways to get in, and this program is geared towards those who don't have a maritime background but really have an interest in it. And if you come in interested and willing to work, you can go amazing places with it. As far as preparing, some things that I know not everyone wants to hear is pay attention to your math. Math is an important subject for a lot of our navigation. It's all kind of math based. That doesn't mean that you need to have completed Calculus 8 and be ready to do trigonometric functions off the top of your head. It just means that you're able to use a calculator, know how the basic principles of math work, and again, be willing to learn, to not be afraid or kind of against it. And we can take it from there.
Great, thanks. And then also, Aaron, there was a question in regards to the NEMO online training. Could you explain a little bit more about how it fits in with the requirements of the STCW and how we operate this online training for people who are already in the industry?
Yes, so on NEMO, Northeast Maritime Online, we have a wide variety of courses. Some of them are entirely standalone courses, some are refresher courses, and some are parts of bigger certifications. But you can take courses. One of our big ones that we just had approved by the Coast Guard is a complete radar course online with a full radar simulator that you're able to get your radar endorsement entirely online from a computer, and you never have to come into a class. We have other courses that do similar things. We have a celestial navigation course that will allow students to get their oceans endorsement if they were sailing under a near coastal license and needed to do their upgrade. They would be able to take that course online and just have a few practical assessments done on board a ship. So a lot of these courses are geared towards helping mariners along that are at sea, that don't want to take the time or shouldn't have to take the time to leave their families during their off hitches to go to class somewhere, right? A merchant mariner typically is at sea anywhere from half to 2/3 of the year. And the time they have off the vessel is kind of precious time. They get, sure, 24 hours a day at home, but when they're gone 24 hours a day. So when they're home, we don't want them to have to go away to go to classes. If they can go into their home office or sit at the kitchen table and take a class online for 3 or 4 hours a day, rather than flying halfway across the country to attend a course that they need for an upgrade or a renewal purpose, then we're accomplishing our goal. We're keeping them home with their families more and allowing them to enjoy their careers more and stay in the industry longer.
And then Aaron, also on the, maybe you can read at one of the last questions on the chat box, since it's to everyone, because this was a follow-up question, but how do you think we can collectively raise the profile of the merchant marine and maritime service providers and sea folk in general?
I mean, one easy way that we can do it is to just talk about it, to let people know that these careers exist. These are good jobs, well-paying jobs. You know, an able seaman is an average wage close to $50,000 in the United States. And it generally comes with health insurance and retirement. And that's where people are starting. You know, these aren't minimum wage jobs anywhere. These are actually good jobs that have retainment and benefits that go along with them. And we just need to talk about it, let people know that this is a career that they can get into. When I was in high school, I had never heard of the merchant marine or a career option like this at all. I wanted to be on board vessels and my thought was I had to go to the Naval Academy as the only possible option. It didn't occur to me that I could get a license and work on vessels otherwise. And I think that's something that we need to get over, and just as general information to people.
Great. And then also, Aaron, you could probably see it in some of the chats. So does Nemo have classes geared specifically for the inland towing industry?
We do have some courses that are geared towards that, and some that are still in the works right now. I don't have the course list in front of me at this second.
So Aaron, I can help you out there. In terms of the inland towing industry, basically in the United States, you will have to have a radar endorsement, which is, you can certainly do online now. Actually, NMI has the first STCW approved course online in the world, approved by the United States Coast Guard with, as Aaron said earlier, with the simulation. Captain Rachel actually wrote the curriculum, and there was a team designing the simulators and all the interface with that. And it's just an outstanding course. But when it comes to the course in lieu of exam, that will be something we develop because it is a national license. It is not a license that falls under the international scheme. So we can actually go ahead and write that for inland operations at any level of licensure in the U.S. Coast Guard. In lieu of exam, and that's something we do plan to do. We are just scratching the surface. We have currently 31 courses approved by the United States Coast Guard for online, and we have approximately 36 internationally under the Commonwealth of Dominica. Yeah, the inland protocols are a little less rigorous, but we will in fact have those courses in lieu of exam for the inland licenses.
All right. Well, Eric, Captain Paolino, I think if anybody, we're kind of wrapping up towards the end of our hour. If anybody, feel free to basically always reach out to us via email, as well as give us a call. We'd love to talk. So we really appreciate your time here at the presentation. Aaron or Eric, do you have anything else to say to wrap up?
Yeah, there's a couple more questions. Does this wrap up at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Tracy, or?
I believe technically, yes.
Okay. So
why can't we keep it open a little longer?
we've got 12 minutes left to answer questions. Aaron, do you want to answer this question from Mr. John O'Kemp about landlubbers bridging course? Those folks, perhaps even self, that are considering a transition from the relative stability of shore to the gentle sway of the ship. What would you advise?
I would advise our associate's degree program as the ideal way, but also some of our smaller vessel courses. We have a launch operators course and a 6-pack course that people can take. 6-pack means a 6-passenger vessel. In the United States, it's also called officially an operator of uninspected passenger vessels. And this is a way that you can get into the maritime industry a little bit easier without going through a degree program, but it does require an amount of time on board vessels. So for someone that has been spending time on the water as a part-time thing for several years, that might be something to work for you to bridge the gap on from landlubber to the gentle sway of a ship. And with something like that, you can then move into other courses. To move beyond the 6-pack course right now for a full license, you would need to come in to take courses, but they are available, and we do a 100-ton license program as well as part of our continuing ed. And for people that have the time at sea that just want to get the certification, we do an AB program as well.
And Tracy, I could answer the question about the ability to have online training. How is digitalization, digital transformation influencing the maritime industry? From Jillian Carson Jackson, who happens to be the president of the Nautical Institute in London. So Jillian, with digitalization really being something that is the norm on the bridge of a ship and in engine rooms, we really have to transform the way we educate mariners to be able to look at modern equipment, understand it, become proficient with it. But at Northeast Maritime Institute, we still train folks to really navigate and operate vessels the old-fashioned way. We integrate the old-time standards. Aaron is a complete expert on celestial navigation. He's actually inventing with his team a sextant simulator, which has never been done in the world before. This is just a brilliant piece of simulation, and he'll be able to teach somebody how to use a sextant completely with this simulator and shoot the stars and the moon and the sun, and then do the math on top of it. And so with digitalization, we are being able to teach in a much more enhanced way, but we are also really, and I will kind of fess up here, we are working, Jillian and I and John O'Kemp, we're working hard to figure out how to get the appropriate bandwidth to vessels around the world at cellular rates. And, really, it's going to be an amazing few years ahead of us, and we are going to deliver. That I know. And instead of waiting for folks to catch up, we decided at Northeast Maritime and with our global partners to really make sure we're going to lead the industry instead of waiting for us to catch up and wait for people to tell us. It was time to move forward and really help the industry, especially seafarers. The creed at Northeast Maritime Institute is to honor the mariner, and that's the best way we can do that. And then Tracy Morgan asks about, and Aaron or Rachel, if you can talk about one of the recent graduates and what they're up to, and and a graduate that you're really proud of. If you want to handle that.
I can handle that. So I don't know that I could pick any particular one. I've been teaching in the college program since I think the end of 2017. And so I have quite a few students under my belt that have gone out there and done really well in the industry. Right now, we have several students who are working out in Alaska with a company called Vitus Marine. And I'm particularly proud of them because they left here. Many of those students left here and they hadn't left the East Coast, or they hadn't left the small town of Fairhaven. And so they had come to our school, and then they took on a great adventure. They went out to the wild parts of Alaska, and they are now moving very quickly up the chain. We have several students out there working as deckhands, several others working as tankermen mates, and I believe we even have a few that might be mates and being groomed for captains in the very near future. And these students have been in the industry for less than a year to up to about 2.5 years. And so I'm particularly proud of them because it's something that I would have loved to have gone and done myself. We also have another student that I think Aaron mentioned. He is now working for Polar Tankers. And I'm particularly proud of him. He came from the maritime industry a little bit, but he came off of cruise vessels working on programs to keep guests busy, really, and decided he wanted something more. And now he's operating, on 1,000-foot tanker vessels off of the West Coast. So extremely proud of him as well. Aaron, can you think of anybody else?
I can. I have one student that just graduated last semester that I'm incredibly proud of, that had a rough start, had a lot of difficulty with his grades, and he struggled, as a lot of students do. He had difficulty with the math. He had difficulty with some of the other parts of the education here, and was terrified when it came time for his exams to sit for his license. His first summer co-op experience, he didn't do a whole lot and was a little bit iffy on things. And then he went out and worked for a towing company during his second co-op experience and did an amazing job for them. And they really enjoyed having him on board, and it gave him some new motivation. And he came back and he struggled and he struggled and he worked and he studied late at night and took tests into the evening, passed all of his Coast Guard licensing exams, and was almost immediately hired by the company he had done his co-op with, Stevens Towing, down in the southeast coast of the US, and is so excited to have gotten through and been in the industry and loves what he's doing now.
If I could also add to what you two spoke about, I get the luxury and the pleasure of meeting with a lot of owners and CEOs of these shipping companies in some interesting meetings, and every single one of them wants to know when they can get more NMI students, even in their cooperative programs. Now, ConocoPhillips, I spoke to this morning for the tankers called Polar Tankers, which Aaron's been talking about, out on the West Coast, as well as Rachel. And I spoke to their head of HR, and she was bragging on the very student that Rachel was talking about, who shifted from an entertainer on cruise ships, came to school. He not only worked hard at school, he worked every day at the Institute's marina. Really had to earn a few dollars to get through school, so wasn't afraid to work and earn a few dollars, and he applied himself in the most judicious way educationally. And the head of public or human resources, told me this morning, she's like, man, I just love your kids. And they only have 5 openings for co-op students. There are 6 major academies in NMI, 6 major academies and NMI, which is a smaller school. And they only have 5 internships, and NMI received 1 of the 5. So it was really, really amazing to find that out. And it was, just exciting. And I'm just doing a little bit of bragging on NMI, but we love our students succeeding. And there's another question, Aaron, if you want
to. Where are we here?
Oh, you know what? JD Abendroth, as we are about to experience an energy boom here in the northeast of the United States with offshore wind, most recently Foss Maritime announced as Maine Maritime support operating right out of New Bedford for Vineyard Wind. Our efforts being made to gain those connections with NMI students as well as other various supporting companies. I believe NMI students will be positioned well if those connections are made. And JD, I'll go ahead and answer that. The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, Morgan Dawicki has been working with the Vineyard Wind folks to design simulation. NMI has a $7 million simulation center 2 full bridge simulators, 6-part task in one center, and then another 6-part task in Integrity Hall with the college program. And the answer is absolutely yes. We are also getting approved by the Global Wind Organization to provide their safety training protocols as well. And we got off the phone today with a group in Washington, D.C., who wants us to facilitate training for the largest labor union in the United States, supporting the wind development from North Carolina to Maine.
Aaron, I don't know if we want to mention, but we also had a student over the winter do a co-op with one of the local companies that is supporting the wind farm infrastructure. And I just, for the life of me, can't remember the name of that company off the top of my head, but
That was Miller Marine Services.
Yeah, so we are making progress, and that's an exciting time for everybody to pay attention to, like the offshore supply industry in the Gulf of Mexico. That has been a boom in the United States. That'll be transitioning to wind development in other resources, not only wind, but fisheries that will be facilitated within the wind farms through aquaculture programs. And just to let everybody know, we'll advance this announcement. Northeast Maritime's next degree program will be in restorative aquaculture, and we will be working with the wind farms to facilitate kelp growth and shellfish growth in those systems, so people can work in these closed areas and still make progress earning a living on the sea, in the sea, or near the sea. And I think, Tracy, I think we're 2 minutes over.
We didn't get booted out. We're all good.
You might want to share your screen. If anybody else has any questions, we can stick around a few extra minutes and answer questions. Or
let's see. Well, this was a great one of our great first presentations that we're hoping to do many more of, over the next year. So again, thanks everyone for signing in, for participating. We really look forward to continuing our programming online and at our great facility, and looking forward to the next few years ahead. So please stay in touch, please spread the word, and thank you again, and everybody have a wonderful evening.